Welcome to The Advocates. I'm Aaron Dean. The FBI is warning of a rise in threats in the U.S. following the war between Israel and Hamas. A senior FBI official says that Muslim and Jewish institutions have been targeted, but most threats have been deemed not credible. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are warning law enforcement agencies around the U.S. to stay alert. FBI Director Chris Wray also says that the agency is focusing on helping Americans in Israel who've been impacted by the war. The State Department says that over 24 Americans have been killed and 15 are still unaccounted for. Relief groups are calling for urgently needed humanitarian aid to enter the Gaza Strip. The United Nations say that aid is being strangled as Israeli forces target Hamas militants in the region. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are in need of food, water, fuel, and medical supplies. Israel has urged Palestinian civilians to evacuate the Gaza Strip, but aid workers in Gaza say that more and more civilians are losing their lives.
Every minute that passes, there are more lives lost, and we appeal to the humanity of the world. We still believe in humanity. Nothing justifies this tragedy, the killing of civilians on both sides.
Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, killing what Israeli officials report as more than 1,400 people and taking nearly 200 hostages. Palestinian officials say that Israel's assault has killed at least 2,700 people. President Biden is pledging his continued support to the LGBTQ+ community amidst global challenges. Biden delivered the keynote address at the Human Rights Campaign annual national dinner. The president says that his administration is committed to protecting and expanding LGBTQ+ rights and protections. He also emphasized a commitment to fight discrimination and violence. The HRC recently endorsed the president and Vice President Harris for another term. They are the largest LGBTQ+ civil rights organization in the country. Nationwide books on queer topics or by queer authors are being pulled from shelves and out of classrooms. These book bans and challenges are also targeting Black authors and books. Leaders with the American Library Association say that they are following these developments very closely. You're here to talk about book bans. So when you hear that term book bans, what kind of comes to your mind? What is your reaction?
Stop banning books. My hair is on fire. I hear book bans and I see all the pictures of books being put in a pile and lit on fire. I see angry people shouting and wanting books removed from the shelves and really getting in the way of what we do as librarians every day.
Yeah. And as we know, most of these challenges when it comes to book bans are books that are written about or by a person of color or a member of the queer community. What are some examples of some titles that you have seen that are facing these bans right now in schools and also public libraries?
You're exactly right. It's books that are about people like you and people like me. Books that if you read them, you can't understand why you would ever want to take them off the shelves. So Mike Corrado's Flamer is a good example. It's a graphic novel about a boy sort of coming into his own sexual identity and struggling with that at a sleepaway camp. And it's one of those beautiful and sort of perfect books that I've read about that period of time. And you read it and you see nothing except the sort of struggle that so many of us go through. There's nothing objectionable about the book, but it's one of the top 12 most challenged books last year. George Johnson's All Boys Aren't Blue is another title that I read a couple of months ago, a beautiful sort of set of essays and stories about being Black and queer, and the kind of book that means a lot to the people who find it on the shelf and read it, but is exactly the kind of book that's being targeted right now.
But as we know, censorship is not a new thing. But when it comes
No.
to book bans, what do you think the fear is? Like, what do you people think is going to happen from you reading, these books?
That's why we know it can't be about the book, right? Because who could be against a kid reading a book? Like, it's impossible. But I think a lot about how many ways there are to ban a book, right? And it's we live in a country where books about queer experience and the Black experience and the experience of being a person of color effectively banned for 100 years, right? Those aren't stories that have been published with great frequency. And now that we see them on the shelves and more books about our experiences than ever before, I think it's a backlash issue. It's people not wanting the stories of our lives to be represented on the shelves, and that's linked intimately to not wanting our lives to exist at all.
And, can you kind of share with our audience how these bans and these attacks on these books and literary pieces are plaguing our American schools and libraries? Like, what kind of impact is it having on our youth and even adults?
I mean, it's really scary, right? Because you want to read a book, pretty ordinary thing that a person wants to do. And as a parent of a teenager, like, I want him to read books. That's all I care about, is him getting to be a reader and enjoying the world of literature. But the challenges are coming fast and furious in a lot of places. So it isn't like one parent being sort of concerned about a book and asking questions about it at the library, which is completely normal and standard practice for libraries. Instead, it's very highly organized groups that are challenging tens, if not hundreds of books at a time, demanding that they be removed from the shelves, advocating for legislation that would in some cases criminalize library workers and teachers for sharing books with their children. And it's, I think, had a real chilling effect on people out in the field, librarians trying to balance the need to put a book in the hands of a child with the risk that they're taking personally. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a queer kid today.
Yeah.
And seeing that happen, seeing people really be like all in on telling you can't exist the way you are. And it's a big step backwards, I think.
It's insane. It's crazy.
Because I came out in 1994 or 5, I think. And I hadn't met more than one queer person until then. And now you see kids being able to occupy their full selves very early in life in ways that are totally inspiring to me. And so to see that, the attempts to sort of crush that beauty, that thing that I kind of envy, that the kids sort of have access to all these ways of being and knowing who they are, it's really sort of devastating.
Yeah. And the 2024 elections they're right around the corner. And kind of talk about right-wing politicians are using book bans as campaign talking points, and we're even seeing elected officials, trying to eliminate these DEI programs in schools. Can you kind of talk about the impact politics is having on education at this moment when it comes to targeting our marginalized communities?
It's really sort of terrifying. Because libraries are trusted institutions in our communities. Everybody loves the library. Your memories of it are you ate lunch every day in the school library. I read a report recently from the Human Rights Campaign that said that trans and gender variant youth, 60% of them report feeling unsafe at school. 90% report feeling safe in the library. These spaces are sanctuaries. They're the places where the most vulnerable among us, youth and adults alike, can find a place to sit down, get a drink of water, be quiet, talk with a friend, read a book, and to be turned into a political talking point or political football has been really surprising. But I think, librarians are experiencing what our public school teachers have experienced, and these efforts to both undermine our institutions and the services we provide to the public, as well as undermining our the workers who who make the library possible. So it's been surprising, I think, for a lot of us, because everybody loves your librarian. We're a trusted community sort of leader, and now all of a sudden people are campaigning on our lives. It's very hard.
Well, and even to that point, I think about my time in elementary, middle, high school, and sometimes even college. Like, going to the library, mine is college, that's different. But in grade school, growing up as a young child, it was a cool thing to go to the library. Going to the book fair. I can tell you, my mom is like, "Oh my God, it's book fair season again. Here's more money." You had that excitement as a kid because you look at books, you look at literature or whatever as an opportunity to escape and explore. And it's very heartbreaking to then see these opportunities to escape and learn and explore just being taken away. Thanks so much for watching The Advocates. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to stream us live, and you can even subscribe to our YouTube channel. For The Advocate channel, I'm Aaron Dean.